Hey guys, welcome to another episode of TR's Corner. For today's story, I want to tell you about the time where I saw Spider Man, the original film, for the very first time with my dad. We were at the AMC theater in Fitchburg. For those who live in the Madison area, at the time it was Star Cinema. I think it was a pretty new theater at the time. I think Star Cinema was just up and going at the time, and it was just getting started and things like that. So I think this is one of my first films I saw there. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I remember it being one of the first films I saw in that theater. And they have those really rockable chairs compared to like the Eastgate Cinema and things like that. Um, yeah, speaking of the very first time I ever saw the original Spider-Man, and the movie started up. There was plenty of cool trailers. I was young enough at the time where I didn't really go to the theater that often. Most of the films I saw around the time and before seeing the original Spider-Man were either things we rented from Hollywood Video, a pretty big video store at the time in my hometown. We rented tons of VHS tapes and tons of DVD discs through that store. And that's how I saw most films back then, or like maybe I rented it through the library and things like that. And, I was still in the age too where I can only watch certain PG-13 films, and I can watch all G and PG, no rated R stuff at the time, unfortunately. So I had to watch all that rated R classics like Silence of the Lambs and things like that at a much later age. I remember Enter the Dragon, though, being one of my first rated R films I ever saw. But anyway, back to the original Spider Man and back to my very first screening of it. And I did see it in the theater back in the day, back in 2002 when it first came out. Opening credits was starting up. Tons of cool trailers were shown before the movie, of upcoming releases. But I really remember the opening credits of the movie because what happened, and this wasn't a good part, but the actual movie itself was the good memory of the story. I remember during the opening credits, and actually, I didn't get to see the opening credits all the way through in its entirety until the DVD came out, and I owned it at home and things like that. So, on the very first screening of Spider Man, I wasn't able to see all the opening credits because of what happened during the following that I'm about to explain here. So, the opening credits were going on. We had the Spider Man logo, and, Tobey Maguire's name was mentioned, all the cast members and things like that. But right in the middle of the credits, a kid that was sitting behind us in the theater was kicking my dad's seat, nonstop. He was always doing it, just kicking, 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 kicking. And then eventually the kid next to him was starting to kick my seat, just kick, 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 kick. And so it just got really annoying. And clearly these kids were either really excited for the movie or they just didn't know how to sit still or something was going on. Opening credits were going through, and for those who've seen the original Spider-Man, like I have several times, I think around the part of the opening credits, because this is the part where my memory of the opening credits came later on, through future viewings of the movie. But I think around the part where they started showing like Green Goblin's helmet in the opening credits and things like that, I remember my dad literally turned around to these kids. He had a finger pointing at them like this and be like, "Hey, I'm not kidding. If I have to deal with this shit throughout the rest of the movie, not only am I going to go get the usher and kick your sorry ass out of this theater, I'm going to make sure that your parents know about this, that you're never going to be able to enter this theater again, and that I guarantee you, if I ever see you again, I'm going to make sure I'm at a different film that you are not going to." And so, yeah, he sat back down, and the kids were completely silent throughout the rest of the movie. And that was just, I was paraphrasing there, but I do know my dad, I think he used some swear words every once in a while he was talking to them. He was really frustrated with these kids. And I remember I just remember that being really loud and clear with that. And I just remember the kids behind us were really quiet. They didn't talk, they didn't bother with my dad throughout the rest of the movie. Yeah, my dad had it with these kids. And yeah, it was a pretty quiet screening at that point. Things were shocking during the movie when they were shocking. We were reacting to the things that were happening in the movie. But yep, as soon as the end credits were done, as soon as those kids were done kicking, it was a very nice experience after that. But man, during those opening credits, it was just kick, 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 kick on our seats. And yep, I still remember that instant to this day. It's loud and clear in my mind. Like I said, I was paraphrasing that quote, but I do remember my dad being pretty finger pointed, pretty strict with them. Made sure that they didn't kick those seats ever again. That they were not going to be a distraction for us throughout the rest of that movie. And yeah, I remember that being a huge memory factor of my very first time seeing the original Spider-Man by Sam Raimi. So that's today's story, guys. I will see you here for a future video. I have plenty of TR's Corner episodes left, and I'll put movie reviews up, in between all of these. So Not 100% certain if another TR's Corner is going to be after this one, so we'll have to see what happens. But I will see you guys here for future videos.